Hey everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us. Today we've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. I first saw Sarah at a college bash. The music so loud it vibrated your bones. The drink strong enough to wipe your memory. Everyone was still figuring out what it meant to be a grown-up, stumbling through that first taste of real freedom. Sarah was dancing in the living room with a few friends, her hair flying with the beat, her laugh cutting through the noise. When our eyes met, she gave me a smile that felt like a hook, pulling me across the crowded room. Usually, I wouldn't go near a stranger, but in that moment, everything else just vanished. I pushed my way through the bodies and introduced myself, feeling like an idiot but also strangely charged. We talked, if you could call it that, with the bass pounding in your chest, and found out we were at the same university studying completely different things. She was a business major, obsessed with starting something big. I was an English major, dreaming of writing books that might actually pay the rent someday. She joked about the cliché of the broke artist, and I teased her about the boring suits she'd have to wear. But there was something there, a quiet feeling that our differences might actually fit together. By the end of the night, we swapped numbers. I watched her go, a weird mix of hope and nerves buzzing inside me. We texted for weeks. She was easy to talk to, quick with a funny reply, and surprisingly honest about what she wanted in life. I told her about the short stories I wrote, the bigger novel I was trying to piece together on my laptop. She told me about her dream of a clothing line that was both stylish and ethical. I was impressed, but also a little intimidated. Sarah was the kind of person who had her whole life planned out in neat little steps, eyes glued to success. I was more of a dreamer, happy scribbling ideas whenever they came. Still, we clicked. Our late-night texts were full of jokes and those moments where you let your guard down. Felt like we were building something real. After about a month of talking almost every day, we decided to meet off campus. She picked a small, cozy cafe near the old library. When I got there, she was already in a booth by the window, sipping a latte and tapping her nails on the table. I sat across from her, noticing how different she looked in the daylight, more polished, put together. But that spark in her eyes was still there, the one that had grabbed me at the party. We talked easily, ordering pastries, jumping from one thing to another. At one point, she reached over and flicked a crumb off my shirt with a playful smile. Felt intimate. By the end of that first real date, I was sure something special was happening. We kept seeing each other, not calling it boyfriend-girlfriend, but definitely more than friends. Sometimes she'd ask me to her study sessions, saying I helped her focus, but we'd usually end up just talking for hours and then rushing our work at the last minute. Other times, we'd sit on the grass at school, me reading bits of my writing while she gave me her honest opinion. She didn't hold back. If something felt wrong, she'd say, "That character doesn't make sense," or "Why would he do that?" At first, her bluntness stung, but I grew to respect it. She had a way of cutting through the fluff and seeing what needed fixing. I'd give her feedback on her design sketches, even though I didn't know much about fashion. She'd show me outfits that mixed sharp lines with eco-friendly materials, and I'd offer opinions on colors. It became our thing, this feeling that we were both working towards our futures, cheering each other on. As the semester ended, Sarah got busier. She had a part-time job at a marketing company downtown, which took up a lot of her time. Meanwhile, I was drowning in exams and final projects. Our time together became rare, squeezed in between classes or late at night. It worried me. She seemed more distant, more focused on her own world. But I told myself it was just the stress. She still sent me sweet texts now and then, saying she missed me or couldn't wait to hang out. I pushed down any doubts, sure we'd go back to normal once school was out. One day, Sarah invited me to a get-together her friend was having. It wasn't really a party, more like a networking thing for business students, with name tags and flyers and a couple of industry people there to answer questions. When I arrived, feeling out of place in my casual clothes, Sarah rushed over, looking excited and a little nervous. She introduced me to her classmates, glancing around like she was waiting for someone important. I tried to mingle, but all the talk about markets and growth left me lost. I stood by the snacks, eating tiny crackers, while Sarah talked in a small group of well-dressed students. She'd throw me a quick smile, but it felt like her mind was somewhere else. I left that night with a bad feeling. On the drive home, I wondered if I really fit into her plans, or if I was just something temporary. Still, Sarah acted like everything was fine. She'd call me at odd hours, apologizing for being so busy, promising things would slow down soon. I believed her. I even wrote a short story inspired by her drive, showing it to her one evening at my place. She read it, her eyes flicking over the words, then set it aside with a soft smile. She said she appreciated how I saw her. She stayed over that night, and for a few hours, I forgot about the distance I'd been feeling. Summer came, and we both settled into a more regular routine. I tutored students on campus, helping them with their writing, while Sarah continued her internship. We fell into a kind of comfortable pattern. She'd come by my apartment after work, we'd eat dinner, watch something on TV, then either study or just relax. Sometimes she'd mention a senior person at her internship, a guy named Mark who was apparently doing really well in marketing. She seemed impressed by him, which didn't bother me at first. But as the weeks went by, she talked about him more and more, praising his skills, his achievements, his fancy suits. My chest tightened whenever his name came up, though I tried to hide it. Sarah's eyes would light up when she described his business smarts, and I couldn't help but feel small compared to this perfect guy. One Sunday afternoon, Sarah told me she had to go to a seminar out of town with her boss and a few coworkers, including Mark. She said it was a big chance to network and maybe get a better job after graduation. I forced a smile, trying to ignore the bad feeling in my gut. I told her to have a great time. She thanked me, gave me a quick kiss, and left. Later that week, she sent me a few texts mostly about the seminar schedule. Once, she mentioned that Mark had given an amazing talk on branding. I replied with something positive, even though I pictured them having dinners together, making connections I couldn't understand. By the time she got back, I tried to push my jealous thoughts away. She was with me, wasn't she? That had to mean something. Towards the end of summer, Sarah's birthday was coming up. I spent days trying to find the perfect gift, something meaningful that showed how I felt. I settled on a custom journal with her initials on it, filled with blank pages for her business ideas or just random thoughts. I even taped a little note inside about all the things we still had to do together. When I gave it to her on her birthday morning, her face lit up. She flipped through the pages, then hugged me, whispering that it was perfect. That evening, she had a birthday party at a trendy place downtown. I went with her, excited to celebrate. The place was packed with her friends, coworkers, and classmates. The music was loud, the drinks were bright, and Sarah looked stunning in a sleek black dress. She introduced me around, but it felt rushed, like she was just going through the motions while she flitted from group to group. In the crowd, I spotted Mark. He was tall, polished, and oozing confidence. He caught my eye and gave a polite nod, but mostly stayed by Sarah's side as they talked to people. Halfway through the party, I needed air. The place was too crowded. I stepped onto the rooftop terrace and leaned against the railing, looking at the city lights. That's when I heard voices from the other side of some plants. I recognized Sarah's voice immediately. She was talking to a friend of hers, a woman named Jen, who I'd met briefly earlier. My first thought was to leave them alone, but something in their tone made me stop. Sarah sounded upset or maybe just conflicted. Quietly, I moved closer to the plants, curiosity and a bad feeling twisting inside me. "I'm telling you," Sarah said, her voice low. "Mark is basically perfect for where I want to be in a few years. He's got the connections, the success, the vision. If he were single, I'd be all over that in a heartbeat." My stomach dropped. A wave of nausea hit me, but I forced myself to stay still. Then Jen asked about me. Sarah's reply was casual, like a slap in the face. "Oh, Alex? He's nice, super sweet, but I don't know if he fits into the bigger picture, you know? He's more of I guess you could call him a backup plan. I mean, if things don't work out with Mark or with my career the way I want, at least I know he's there. He really likes me, so it's kind of a safety net." My heart hammered so hard I thought they'd hear it. Part of me wanted to burst out and confront her, but shock held me frozen. I felt small, like all the air had been sucked out of me. Sarah, the person I'd started to really care about, was calling me her backup, someone to fall back on if her big dreams didn't happen. Worse, she was thinking about moving on to Mark if she got the chance. Tears of anger pricked my eyes. I struggled to breathe quietly as Sarah went on, explaining to Jen how she had to be strategic with relationships, just like in business. "You have to think 5 steps ahead," she said, "and you can't get too attached to someone who might not help you grow." My chest burned, a mix of anger and heartbreak fighting inside me. I wanted to run, but another part of me needed to hear it all. Finally, Jen coughed uncomfortably and said, "That seems a bit cold, Sarah. What about his feelings?" Sarah sighed. "He'll be fine. He's strong enough to handle it or he'll move on. But for now, he's someone I can keep around. I do like him, just maybe not as much as he likes me." The words felt like knives. When footsteps came closer, I quickly backed away, slipping around the corner so they wouldn't see me. Sarah and Jen left the terrace, not knowing I'd heard everything. I stood there, breathing hard, trying to make sense of it. For a few minutes, I thought about just leaving quietly, letting Sarah's words eat away at me in the dark. But then something inside me snapped. The quiet, understanding part of me was taken over by a fierce need to show her what she was doing. If I just disappeared, she'd keep using me as her second choice while flirting with Mark or anyone else who could help her climb. I felt a surge of anger. I deserved better, and at the very least, her friends, our friends, in a way, needed to know the truth. I walked back into the loud party, weaving through the crowd until I saw Sarah and Jen by the bar, talking to some people. My stomach churned, but adrenaline pushed me forward. I took a deep breath and walked up to them. Sarah looked up with a smile, but her face changed when she saw the anger in my eyes. I forced a polite greeting, then looked at Jen. Hey, can I borrow Sarah for a second? There's something I'd like everyone here to hear. My voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. Sarah's brow furrowed, confusion flickering across her face. She stepped closer. What's going on? She asked, half laughing, probably hoping I was about to do something romantic. Instead, I cleared my throat and raised my voice so the people nearby could hear. I just overheard something interesting. I began, looking around at the group. Sarah's eyes widened, a hint of fear creeping in. It seems that our birthday girl has been telling people I'm her backup plan. Someone to keep around in case her real ambitions don't work out. A hush fell over the small group. Whispers started to spread. Sarah's mouth hung open, her face pale. I didn't let her interrupt. Apparently, I'm the nice, sweet option she'll settle for only if she can't land someone more suitable for her big dreams. Good to know how highly she thinks of me. Sarah stammered, stepping forward, her hands raised as if to stop me. Wait, that was just talk. I didn't mean, but I cut her off. Don't lie. I shot back. I heard every word you said on the rooftop. You said you're interested in Mark or someone like him, and that I'm just a safety net. You basically called me your insurance policy. So let's make sure everyone here, including Mark, knows where we all stand. I turned to Mark, who was standing nearby, looking stunned. She's been eyeing you, man. You might want to watch your back. Because if she's talking about me like this, you can only imagine what she might be saying about you when you're not around. Mark looked mortified, glancing quickly at Sarah. She tried to say something, stumbling over her words. It's not. I never meant. You're misunderstanding. But the air was thick with tension. A few people started whispering, while others just stared. Some were Sarah's close friends, but even they looked unsure how to defend her. I took a shaky breath, my anger fading into a hollow relief. I'd done what I needed to do. The silence that followed felt heavy. Sarah finally found her voice. This is a misunderstanding, she insisted, turning to the people watching. I was just venting. I don't really see you as a backup plan, Alex. I'm sorry if it came out wrong. Her eyes flicked to me, desperate. I stood there, arms crossed, silently daring her to keep lying. Her friend Jen looked deeply uncomfortable, probably remembering their private talk. I spoke again, my voice calmer but final. You said exactly what you meant, Sarah. And you know what? I'm not going to be anyone's second choice. Not yours, not Mark's, not anyone's. If you can't respect me enough to see me as an equal, as someone worthy of real commitment, then we have nothing left to say. She tried to grab my arm, but I stepped away. In that charged silence, with half the room now aware of what was happening, I looked around at the stunned faces. My gaze landed on Mark, who looked like he wanted to disappear. Then I saw Jen, who looked pitying and ashamed. I straightened my shoulders, letting out a long breath. Happy birthday, Sarah, I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Then I turned and walked out, not waiting for her reply. The adrenaline was still pumping as I made my way to the elevator, ignoring the curious stares of people who'd missed the drama but felt the tension. The moment I stepped onto the street, a flood of emotions hit me. Anger, betrayal, humiliation. I fumbled with my phone, unsure whether to call a friend or just walk. In the end, I texted my closest friend, Liam, simply saying, "You won't believe what just happened. Need to talk." Then I started walking, the cool night air helping me calm down. Sarah tried calling me several times, but I let it ring. I didn't want to hear any more excuses or lies. I couldn't forget her calling me a fallback, like a spare tire. The betrayal cut deep, especially since I'd really thought we had a future. Liam picked me up near a closed coffee shop about half an hour later. I told him everything, my voice shaking with anger. He shook his head, cursing under his breath. "Man, that's rough," he said, his eyes on the road. "I'm sorry, man. You didn't deserve that." I felt a tightness in my chest, a wave of self-doubt rising. Sarah's words had suggested I wasn't good enough, not ambitious enough for her. Liam, sensing my mood, put a hand on my shoulder at a red light. "Listen, you're talented, you're a good person, and you've got your own path. If she can't see that, it's her loss, not yours." Over the next few days, Sarah bombarded me with messages and calls. Some were apologies, begging for a chance to explain. Others were angry, accusing me of making a big deal out of nothing. I read a couple of her texts. One said, "I didn't mean any of it literally. I was just talking nonsense with Jen." Another read, "You know how stressed I was. Sometimes I say things without thinking." But I remembered her voice that night, firm, measured, confident in her strategy. That wasn't a slip of the tongue. It was the truth. Eventually, I blocked her number. I wanted no part of her trying to rewrite what happened. Word of the confrontation spread. Some people reached out, shocked or supportive. A few took Sarah's side, saying I'd humiliated her on her birthday, made a private thing public. But I didn't feel guilty. If she hadn't belittled me, there would have been nothing to expose. I might have felt bad if I hadn't actually heard her call me her backup plan. Over time, the gossip died down and life moved on. Sarah was still at the university, but I rarely saw her. When we did pass each other, we'd lock eyes for a second, then look away. That fall, I threw myself into writing. The hurt and anger became a strange kind of fuel. I wrote about heartbreak, about the way things can look bright but shatter easily, about finding your own worth when someone tries to take it away. The words poured out of me, raw and honest, and for the first time, I felt like I was really getting somewhere with my writing. My friends noticed how focused I'd become. "Well, at least something good came out of that mess," Liam said one afternoon, reading a bit of my new work. I just shrugged, not sure if I should thank Sarah for the inspiration or resent her for the pain. Maybe it was both. Sometimes I'd hear things about Sarah, that she was doing great at her internship, that she might get a full-time job, that Mark had apparently gotten engaged to someone else. The news about Mark made me wonder how Sarah felt. Was she disappointed that he wasn't an option anymore? Did she ever regret seeing me as just a stepping stone? I tried not to think about it too much. Her feelings weren't my problem anymore. As time went on, the sting of her betrayal faded into a dull ache. I finished my novel, A Small Victory, and sent it to a few publishers. Surprisingly, a small independent press was interested. After a few emails and calls, they offered to help me make it even better. Their belief in my work felt like a dream. I shared the news with Liam, who was thrilled for me, saying this could be the start of everything. And he was right. A few months later, I signed the contract. My book was going to be published the following year. Part of me wished I had someone special to share it with, but I knew I had to be okay celebrating my own wins. That was part of growing up, standing on my own 2 feet. Near the end of my final year at university, I went into the campus coffee shop for a caffeine fix. I saw Sarah sitting at a corner table, her laptop open, papers spread around. She looked up as I approached the counter. Our eyes met, and that awkward tension hung in the air. She gave me a small, hesitant smile, like she wasn't sure if I'd ignore her. Despite the old feelings, I gave a polite nod and focused on ordering my coffee. Before I could leave, she stood up and walked over. "Hey," she said quietly. "Long time no see." I nodded, holding my coffee cup tight. "Yeah, it has been." There was a strained silence. Her eyes flicked to the floor. "Listen," she began. "I know things ended badly between us. I just wanted to say, congratulations on your book deal. I heard about it from some people." Her voice was softer than I remembered, lacking its usual confidence. I blinked, caught off guard. "Thanks," I managed, not sure what else to say. She bit her lip, then admitted, "I read a bit of your book online. Someone mentioned you posted a part of it. It's really good, Alex. Powerful. You've come a long way." Part of me wanted to walk away, but another part felt a small flicker of satisfaction, a sense that I'd proved her wrong about what I could do. She looked at my face, maybe hoping for some sign of forgiveness. I offered a polite smile but kept it brief. "I appreciate that. I worked hard on it," I said. She nodded, her eyes holding a hint of regret. "I won't keep you," she murmured. "I just wanted to say that I'm sorry truly, and I'm happy for you. You deserve this." For a moment, old feelings threatened to surface: anger, hurt, a strange kind of longing, confusion. But the sharp pain had settled into a calmer acceptance over time. "Thank you," I replied softly. Then, with a small wave, I turned and walked out, leaving her by the coffee counter. My heart was beating faster, but the turmoil didn't cling to me like it used to. The apology was too late to fix anything between us, but maybe it was a step towards finally letting it all go. Stepping outside, I took a deep breath of the crisp air. In that moment, I realized something important. I didn't need her approval anymore. The person I had become, stronger, more determined, carving my own path, was enough. If Sarah truly regretted what she'd done, that was her burden to carry. Mine was to keep moving forward. Graduation came and went. I walked across the stage, got my English degree, my parents cheering proudly. Liam was there too, taking pictures. I didn't see Sarah in the crowd, but I figured she was somewhere with her business friends. After the ceremony, we all spilled onto the lawn, hugging friends, taking more photos. That feeling of excitement for the future was everywhere. As I walked among the graduates, I understood that what happened with Sarah was just one chapter. There would be many more, and I was in charge of how they unfolded. I eventually moved to a different city to promote my book, doing small readings at local bookstores. The money wasn't great, but the experience was amazing. Meeting readers who connected with my stories felt like a dream come true. The new friendships and even some short-lived romances helped me see things in new ways. I shared apartments with other creative people, building a community based on art, music, and late-night talks. I still had moments of doubt, days when I worried if I could really make a living as a writer, but I was following my own passion, no longer afraid of not measuring up to someone else's idea of success. A couple of years passed, and I didn't hear much about Sarah. Rumor had it she'd moved to a bigger city, climbing the corporate ladder in fashion marketing, just like she'd planned. Sometimes I'd see glimpses of her life on social media, photos at fancy events, posts about the companies she was working with. She seemed to be doing well, moving forward in her chosen field, and I felt neither jealous nor regret. We had gone our separate ways, and that was how it needed to be. Once, I noticed she'd like to post about my upcoming sequel, but she never said anything directly. I guess we both understood we belonged to different stories now. The biggest moment of validation came a year after my first book was released. I was invited to a small literary award ceremony where my book was nominated for Best Debut. I didn't expect to win, but I went anyway, just thrilled to be recognized. Sitting in the banquet hall, wearing a suit that didn't quite fit, I felt a wave of gratitude. I thought about how far I'd come since those university days, since that humiliating birthday party. When they announced my name as the winner, my face flushed with disbelief. I stumbled up to the stage, my thanks mumbled into the microphone. In the audience, I saw my publisher beaming, and next to him, Liam clapping like crazy. The applause was a blur. For a split second, I thought of Sarah, remembering how she used to critique my early drafts. Maybe if things had been different, she would have been there, cheering me on. But the thought faded quickly. This moment was about me, my triumph over the doubts, the heartbreak, and my own insecurities. After the ceremony, Liam found me by the refreshments, giving me a hard punch on the shoulder. We laughed, remembering how uncertain everything felt back in college. He brought up Sarah, mentioning that she occasionally asked about me through mutual friends. "Guess she still wonders how you're doing," he remarked. I shrugged, swirling my drink. "I'm doing just fine," I said, and I meant it. Maybe part of her was curious if I'd failed without her, if I'd remained a backup plan in someone else's life. But she'd be wrong. I'd built my own plan, one that didn't need anyone's permission or condescension. Later that night, I returned to my small apartment. I set the award on my desk, letting its weight remind me of my progress. Then I opened an old notebook, flipping through poems and snippets I'd written during the time with Sarah. Some lines were full of pain, others laced with anger. I felt a strange fondness for my younger self, who had gone through that heartbreak but had come out stronger. The hurt had pushed me, made me even more determined to succeed on my own terms. I closed the notebook gently, feeling a sense of peace settle over me. A few weeks later, I got an unexpected email from Sarah's address. The subject line read, "Congratulations and sorry." Curious, I opened it. In the message, Sarah congratulated me on the award, saying she'd followed my journey from a distance. She admitted she'd been wrong to treat me like a second choice and that she'd been too focused on her own ambition to see the value of a real connection. She said she was proud of how far I'd come, that she'd learned her own lessons too, about not using people as tools. She ended by wishing me well and apologizing again for the past. I stared at the screen, a mix of emotions washing over me. There was no request to get back together, no attempt to start anything new, just an acknowledgement of her mistake and a nod to my success. It felt genuine, and that sincerity, even years later, gave me a strange sense of closure. I typed a brief reply, thanking her for the congratulations, acknowledging that we'd both grown. I didn't bring up old wounds or second chances. I wished her luck on her own path, clicked send, and sighed deeply. After that, I blocked her email. We had nothing more to say. Whatever lingering feelings were between us were finally laid to rest. Sometimes people ask if I regret exposing her that night. They wonder if there was a kinder, more private way to handle it. But I can't say I do. In that moment, I needed to stand up for myself, to refuse the role she'd given me. I needed that messy confrontation to break the illusion and walk away with my dignity. Maybe it was dramatic, maybe even harsh, but it was necessary. For too long, I'd been the sweet, adoring partner, unprepared for the possibility that the person I cared about saw me as disposable. The shock woke me up, forced me to think about what I really wanted from a relationship and from life. It also made Sarah face the consequences of her actions. If she learned something from that public moment, then maybe it wasn't just for my benefit. In the quiet of my new life, I've come to understand that everyone is on their own journey, shaped by their own ambitions, fears, and past experiences. Sarah's mistake was to treat relationships like business deals, picking the best option for her plan. My mistake was to put her on a pedestal, ignoring the signs that she saw me as less. But through the wreckage, I found my own strength. I learned that I am more than a fallback, more than a stepping stone. I've built a life that fits my passion for writing, and my relationships now are based on real respect, on genuine connection, without any hidden agendas. Occasionally, I'll walk through my old university campus, drawn by memories, the library steps where we once sat, the cafe where she teased me about my bad coffee, the lawn where we argued about stories and marketing ideas. I linger there, remembering the naive hope of those days. Then I smile. The heartbreak and betrayal that used to haunt me have faded into a distant echo. I am content, no longer needing to prove myself to someone who saw me as Plan B. My story stands on its own. It's a story of heartbreak, yes, but also of triumph, of finding my worth and refusing to let anyone undermine it again. Years may pass, and Sarah might keep climbing her corporate ladder, making deals, networking with important people. I hope she finds happiness in that world. Meanwhile, I'll be writing my next novel, exploring the messy beauty of human connections, weaving heartbreak and resilience into stories that hopefully touch readers. Whenever I think back to that night I exposed her, I remember the shock on her face, the hush that fell over the room, and the feeling of freedom that washed over me. That moment changed everything. After that, I never again let someone casually treat me as a second option. And for that, I have no regrets, because at the end of the day, I am not a backup plan. I am a person with dreams, talent, and the strength to choose my own path, no matter who tries to diminish me. That truth is the lasting gift Sarah unintentionally gave me, a clear understanding of who I am and what I will no longer accept. It's a lesson I carry with me into every new chapter of my life. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. See you next time.